Hello Guardians, Eido here. Over the last few videos, I've been touching on a very important character in Destiny as of late, that character being Eido, the daughter of Mithrax. Eido's come a long way in the background of the lore, only becoming an important character this season of the Splicer. However, she has a lot of history. If you want to see more information on Eido's first moments, take a look at my Who is Mithrax videos, which detail the earlier life of her father. He named his daughter Eido after Seer Eido, who was the Queen's Wrath that spared his life and let him live with the other Awoken. But despite being named after the Queen's Wrath, the Eliksni has made quite a name for herself throughout the years. So today, I'll be looking at the story of Eido, the Scribe of House Light. Like the other recent videos, I'll be looking into the 2021 Solstice of Heroes armor set. This time, the Hunter armor set. Our first lore entry shows us an early experience of Eido when she was still living in the Dreaming City. Based on her age, this may have been one of her first memories as a small child, called hatchlings in Eliksni culture. During this lore, the Techians of the Awoken visit the small child in her dreams, but inadvertently cause a nightmare. Eido crept on all sixes through the massive halls of the Dreaming City. She was following an indistinct murmur, both terrifying and compelling. 1,000 voices, all muttering to themselves. How did she get here? She peered around the corner of a massive archway. Beyond, she found a circular chamber with an elaborate sigil carved into the stone floor. 3 Awoken figures stood at precise intervals along the carved seal. The chamber was without a ceiling. The void of space yawned overhead. Spiraling galaxies seemed to fill the room. Eido realized that she wasn't breathing. Was she dead? Suddenly, Eido stood in the center of the sigil. She turned in a circle, trying to identify the looming figures, but their faces were vast and unknowable, like the void above. She felt the weight of their focus, as if she were falling in all directions at once. She looked down and discovered with horror that the ground was receding. She was floating upwards into the vacuum of space. The figures paid her no attention as she drifted away. As the chamber fell away beneath her, the murmurs condensed and merged until it unified into a single, panicked wail. Eido awoke to find the scream coming from her own mouth. Mithrax crouched next to her pallet, wringing his lower hands in concern.
Be calm, young one, be calm. You are Eido. You are in the one true now. You are safe.
He gave her a sip of ether from his own meager reserve, and waited patiently until she quieted.
Tell me of your journey,
he prompted, intently. She explained her experience, as best a hatchling could. Mithrax nodded gravely.
The Techians, advisors to our hosts. They are like scribes for the Awoken.
He sat, thinking quietly.
I know you are frightened, but I am confident this is a blessing,
he decided.
All great things appear first as monsters. There may be a day,
he continued,
when you are seen as a monster, and your blessing is frightening to those who cannot understand it. When that time comes, remember this moment.
Eido nodded, though she didn't fully understand. How could a hatchling be a monster?
I too am sometimes frightened by the Techians,
Mithrax confided.
But we must look beyond our fear to find the light. This is courage. Can you show courage?
Eido nodded again.
You can. I'm sure of it,
Mithrax said proudly.
The light provides.
The light provides, Eido murmured as she lay back down to a peaceful slumber. It's interesting to see that one of her most important early memories involves the Techians, with even Mithrax drawing a parallel to the scribes of the Elixni. And, of course, there is an important lesson to be made that sometimes things that are good for us are difficult to understand. Next, a more grown-up Eido speaks with Verix? Well, we can't exactly be sure of when or where this conversation took place, but it must have been before Eido was an adult. So perhaps it was when Verix still held some loyalty to the Queen of the Awoken.
And all of the houses respected their decisions?
Eido asked, dubious.
Yes,
Verix replied.
It was so agreed by all of Reese.
The old scribe traced his fingers across the datapad, deciphering notes that hadn't been accessed in decades.
But didn't the other houses fight amongst each other, disputing their decisions?
Eido leaned forward, fascinated by the idea of one house accruing so much political sway without resorting to violence.
To dispute the House of Judgment was to dispute all Elixni houses,
Verix explained.
It was the voice of the Elixni united.
Eido puzzled over this. The idea of mediation was not new to her. Mithrax often solved problems between house members without violence. But the idea of organizing a whole society using that method was novel.
So it was the ruling house,
Eido concluded. Verix clicked his mandibles in annoyance.
No! The House of Judgment was both above and below all other houses. It was both Kel and Dreg. Its authority came from humility.
Eido had only ever known of scribes as political animals, power brokers and go-betweens, like Verix. But the idea of scribes as neutral parties, dedicated to peace and knowledge, was enticing.
This is why the old scribes pursued knowledge relentlessly. They sought it from uncommon sources,
Verix continued.
Their knowledge was overwhelming, unyielding. So, when a scribe of House Judgment decided, all Elixni respected it. They knew that nothing was left unconsidered.
Eido nodded raptly. For the first time, she imagined peace not just as an aspiration, but as a practice and a vocation. The idea blossomed within her. Well, now we know where Eido was inspired to be a scribe. Interesting that the idea for peace through mediation came to her from such a two-face as Verix. But at least it led her down the right path. The next story comes after Eido has become a scribe, and is choosing to visit the Techians again, the same ones that frightened her earlier. For knowledge, of course.
They may reject you,
Mithrax warned.
The Techians are not welcoming to outsiders.
I understand,
The scribe replied.
but even if they refuse me instruction, I might still get access to their data archives. That alone would be a lifetime's worth of knowledge.
You do not have a lifetime to study.
Mithrax warned.
We must rejoin the Elixni soon. They will need guidance. We must reach them while there are still some left to help.
I will learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can.
The scribe turned her palms downward in a show of fealty. Mithrax paused, wishing to prolong the moment.
I recall a time,
He reminisced.
when you were just a hatchling. The Techians visited you in the night. You woke up screaming.
I recall it well.
The scribe replied.
To tell the truth, they still frighten me. But we must look beyond our fear to find the light.
In that moment, Mithrax saw her anew. The scribe shone with a brightness he had never seen before. a mix of joyful optimism and grim determination. She had finally found her path to the light, he thought.
I am proud to have such a brave scribe as daughter,
he said, in a break of formality.
Thank you,
Eido replied, surprised by his tone.
I'm lucky to have such a wise Kell for my father.
We can see that Eido has grown up into someone that Mithrax can be proud of. The Kell is happy for her to be a scribe, but also wishes to impart upon her some of his old splicer trainings and wisdom, as we can see here. Eido recoiled as the spindly claws of the splicer gauntlet snapped and jerked. When her father wore it, the damned thing always moved smoothly, as if it were his own fingers. But attached to the end of her arm, it seemed possessed by a life of its own. Mithrax's considerable patience was beginning to wear thin.
No, Eido, no. Splicing is not about thinking. It is about feeling. Feel the energy flow from the ground, through your legs, up your torso, and out through your arm.
His arms wove circular patterns in the air, as if gently wafting smoke upwards.
The movement of the gauntlet is the continuation of a motion that begins deep in the heart of the planet, where it keeps its light.
Eido sighed. Mithrax was intent on passing the way of the splicer to his daughter, but after 3 days of attempts without the barest signs of success, they were both becoming frustrated. Eido was eager to learn, to live up to her father's skills, but the harder she tried, the more violently the gauntlet seemed to reject her. Eido took several deep breaths and extended her mind's eye through the ground, deep into the well of light at the center of the planet. She followed the light through the firmament, up through her body, and into the gauntlet. It whirred smoothly to life.
Yes, just so,
Mithrax encouraged her.
Now feel the light extend from the gauntlet into the shank. Feel its code lying dormant. It is sleeping, waiting for you to wake it.
Eido extended the gauntlet. A surge of energy shot forth from its claws, sending crackles of electricity rippling across the shank's surface. In her shock, Eido jerked the gauntlet away, which severed the connection. The electricity sparked for an instant longer, then went still. A small plume of smoke issued forth from deep within the shank. Eido didn't need for Mithrax to tell her that she had just fried the main circuit net. Mithrax took a moment to compose himself before speaking.
This is a good lesson. When one focuses on the metal, the form of the machine, and not—
Mithrax Kell. Father.
Eido interrupted.
This is not— I don't want—
She fought her emotions for control of her voice. Mithrax waited for her daughter to compose herself.
I am not a splicer,
she finally said.
I'm certain of it. I know this is a disappointment to you, but the gauntlet has spoken.
She pulled the spiteful mechanism off her arm and held it out. Mithrax took it reluctantly.
I am sorry that you will not follow me in the way of the splicer. However,
he continued,
it is a far greater thing to know what you are than what you are not.
He lifted all 4 of his palms towards her in a sign of respect.
Self-knowledge is the rarest skill of all, and not commonly found in one so young.
Eido was filled with relief and gratitude for her lesson. Though she doesn't have the skill required to be a splicer, Eido seems to be sure of her position as a scribe. Finally, we see the most recent lore entry to the story, which shows another good look at Guardians from the perspective of others. Eido meets up with her father after a battle with fallen Elixni, seeing the aftermath that Guardians leave in their wake. The Guardian was resplendent. Their armor gleamed, even in the dull gloom of the European night. The golden scrollwork of their breastplate glowed, as if the light itself imbued the metal. It was beautiful. The broken forms of dead and dying Elixni littered the battlefield, each bearing the symbol for the House of Salvation. Blood and ether seeped across the ice, freezing into rich stains. The Guardian strolled casually from body to body, searching for ammunition and weaponry. Eido had watched the battle through a viewfinder from atop a far-off ridgeline. Even at this distance, the brutality was hard to countenance. She glanced quizzically at Mithrax, who crouched beside her. These were the Guardians her father trusted? As if sensing her reservation, Mithrax spoke.
The Guardians are capable of mercy, though they seldom show it.
Then why does the great machine bless them? Eido asked. Is it not better to be merciful?
The darkness is coming,
Mithrax replied wearily.
Nearer now than ever before. Perhaps mercilessness is exactly what the great machine needs.
Once again, we can see the faith that Mithrax puts in us Guardians, and how important our unity is to him. Like he dreamed so long ago, his greatest wish is to become the leader of an open-minded collective of multiple races. He dreams to partner with open-minded Elixni, humans, and perhaps even Cabal and Hive. But regardless of where his path leads, we know his loving daughter and loyal scribe will be beside him, to document not only his failings, but victories. So thank you for joining me today. My statistics tell me that about 90% of you watching aren't subscribed yet, so remember to subscribe if you haven't already. The best way to let me know you enjoy my content is to leave a like on the video or a comment down below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.